Hello there! In this video you will learn how to use Godot's input mapping system to map actions for your game objects to your input devices like your keyboard, your mouse, even game controllers, or anything you would like to try. I will guide you step by step how to create custom actions bound to different keys, and then how to use those actions in code. We will also look at different ways of getting input, as in if the player is pressing a key, holding it, or maybe even releasing it. So let's get started. In order to map any keys on our keyboard or mouse or any kind of input, we're going to use a neat system of Godot, which is the input map. You're going to go into Project Settings, and Input Map. So here you can create all sorts of actions. You will give them separate names, and you'll be able to call them through your code. So let's say I would like to move my character with AWSD, and maybe for fun we can scale him up and down with Q and E. So I'm going to create an action for each one of those interactions and give them a separate name. Let's say for our movement I'm going to create 4 actions, one for moving in each direction. So we will have left, right, up, and down. I would like to also be able to scale up and down when I click Q and E, so I'm going to create 2 more actions called scale up and scale down. Scale up, scale down. And now to each of these actions, you're able to map any button, any input you'd ever like. So you can click on the plus icon here, add event, on any of the actions. So let's say for our left action, so I would like to map that to button A on my keyboard. I'll click the plus icon. And right now Godot is listening for input, so all I have to do is just press A on my keyboard, and it will detect that I want A to be the event for the action called left. So we press OK, and you can see for left it maps our physical key A. And we'll do the same thing for all the other actions. So for our action right, I'm going to add event. I'm going to click D on my keyboard and hit OK. For up, I'm going to hit W. For down, I will hit S. Scale up, I'm going to do E. And scale down, Q. Okay. And right now, all of these actions are mapped to different keys on my keyboard. You can always add more actions. You can always just click the plus icon again, and even just scroll, see what options you have here. We have also our mouse buttons, our mouse wheel. If you want to use a gamepad or a joypad, you got all of your buttons here and joystick axes, and as well as just all of the keys on the keyboard that you can use. Once you have mapped everything that you'd like, we can close this menu. I'm gonna go ahead and create a 2D scene. And I would like to just move around and scale up and down a simple sprite 2D. So I'm gonna create a new node. To do that, you can click the plus sign or just use the shortcut Ctrl plus A. So I will press Ctrl plus A, write sprite, go. For the texture, I'm just gonna drop in our Godot icon. I'll move him to the middle of the screen. And I will add a script to our sprite. Let's hit create. In our default script, we will not need the ready function, since we are basically going to be checking every frame if we are pressing or using any of the actions that we just created. So since ready only works once when the sprite 2D enters the game, it is not really helpful for what we need right now, so I'll just go ahead and delete it. So as we can see, the process function is called every frame, and delta is the elapsed time since the previous frame. This will be helpful later. But for now, let's just see what options we have with the actions that we created. So we would like to check if we are pressing the given keys on our keyboard, or basically if the actions that we just created are being called by our keys. To do that, we use the if statement, and we'll use the input system. And we have a few options here. So we will have is action just pressed, And inside of these brackets, we have to define the action that we want to check for. So let's say for now, we just want to see if I'm going to be pressing W, which is our up action. It has to be in parentheses. So I'll write up. You can see in the auto-completion if that's the same name you gave it in the input map. So I'll hit tab. Remember that after each if statement you need a column. We can click enter to go into the if statement. So if we are detecting that I have pressed W, which is mapped to our up function, I would like to just for now print out something just so that we can see that it works. So I'll print out pressed W. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna hit save, or if you want to just press play, it'll also tell you to select the scene you want to play. So select current and hit save. And if I will press W, you can see in the console, it prints press W. So every time I press W, the action up is being triggered, and that way in the process function, we notice it and we print press W. We have a few more options that are quite helpful with actions, one of which is input dot is action pressed. So let's say if I will put in left column, so left will be binded to our A key, so I can print out here pressing A. So the difference between action just pressed and action pressed is that action pressed will also detect if I am holding the given key. So this action just pressed only fires exactly once, only when the key is pressed, and then it'll give back false. So if you want to detect if you're holding a key, this is helpful for movement, right? So if you want to move right, left, up, down, you want to detect how long the player is holding the key, not only when he presses it, then you will use action pressed. So you can see that if I play the game now, if I hold W, you can see that we are only printing it once, since action just pressed only detects the key down, basically. And if I am going to hold A, so our action left, you can see that it's printing it over here. It will be printing it every frame that I'm holding it. So I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna press, let go, press, let go. But I cannot do the same with W, which even if I'm holding it, it's only gonna print it on the exact frame that I press it. One last helpful option that we do have is if input dot is action just released. We can try that with our right action, the column, enter, and we can do print released. This is probably very logical, so judging by that we're using just released, this print release D will only be printed as we release the key. So if I am going to play, I'm going to press the right now. Nothing happens. Once I release, and 3, 2, 1, you can see I have released the. If we want to see it a bit more clearer, we can actually change this to right as well. And then press the and release the, and then you can see exactly that when I press it, we have press the, and then I release, release the. Press, release, press, release. So this might be helpful for any other situation, like maybe you want your player to power up an attack and only shoot after you release the key. This would be the way to do it. You would detect when he is holding the key, so maybe you would use action pressed, and then on just released, you can shoot or do whatever you wish. So for the example that I'm gonna do, I would like to see when I am holding my keys. So I'm just gonna use isActionPressed, so I'm gonna delete the other ones. I'm going to copy and paste this a few times for all of our inputs. I'm going to have to change the names to the ones that we set before. So we have right, up, down, scale down, and scale up. And basically anything that is inside of these functions will be playing, of course, when we trigger these actions. So let's say I would like my sprite to move left, right, up, and down when I press the given AWSD keys. I can, instead of printing anything, I can just access the given properties of, let's say, the position of the sprite. So for moving left, we can do something along the lines of position dot x. So we're moving left, so we're gonna subtract equals. We will subtract maybe 100. To move right, we can copy the same, and instead of going minus, we'll do plus, so we're moving to the right. To move upwards, we're gonna go on the y-axis, and as we should know in Godot, the y-axis goes upwards in the negative values, so we still do minus to go up. Go down, we go positive, so we do plus equals. Scaling down, we can change the scale, so we can just write scale plus equals, and the scale has two properties, x and y. We would like to change them both at the same time, so we're gonna have to plus equal a vector 2 of, let's say, 2 and 2. Actually, on scaling down, we would like to go minus equals because we're scaling down. And then on scaling up, we would like to do plus equals. One important thing to keep in mind when we're raising things every frame or lowering, as in this case, we are lowering the position by 100 every frame because process runs every frame. And we're also hiring it on a different action, or we're scaling down or up. It is important that we always multiply these kind of changes with delta. So I'll do it with every line. The reason for that is that some computers can run this program faster, so it will have more frames per second, and some slower PCs will have to run it slower. And in that case, delta will change the value to then match it on every computer, so it doesn't matter if your PC is faster or slower, you will still move left and right, up and down, and scale up and scale down at the same rate as a very fast PC, because delta will be changing the value accordingly to either a higher value for slower PCs that will have less frames per second, or a smaller value in higher end PCs which will run this program faster. Alright, so now we can test our game. And if I use the AWSD keys, I can move around. We're pretty slow, but that's just because we set our speed to be quite low. And if I click Q, we scale down. If I click E, we scale up. So that's how you can map different keys on your keyboard to interact with different parts of your game objects. I really hope you enjoyed this short tutorial on a very important part of game development, which is key mapping. If you have any questions, big or small, make sure to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe, and thank you for learning.